have a quorum. So just we're going to kind of speed things up today because we're on a time crunch. So if you do not have anything new to say, please just refer to ditto or I support the bill. Or if you would like to wield your time to somebody else that has more to say than you, that would be fine too. So we'll just do quick introductions. My name is Steve Bartels, the chairman, and I represent House District 74.
Good morning, Ryan Lauer, representing Columbus and Bartholomew County.
Representative Matt Commons, House District 13, covers parts of 8 counties in the west side of the state.
Becky Cash, House District 25, parts of Boone and Hendricks County.
Chuck Mosley, District 10, Porter County.
Ethan Lawson, representing District 53 in Hancock and Madison counties.
Good morning, Chris Judy. I represent District 83, which are portions of Allen and Whitley County. That was not me.
Good morning, Tim O'Brien, House District 78, portions of Vandenberg and Warwick counties.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and start off with House Bill 1095, Representative Harris.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, all the members of the committee. Created in 2021, House and Road Act 1558, authored by Representative Greg Sturwald, created the Indiana Crime Guns Task Force in 8 counties in central Indiana. Excuse me. The collaborative law enforcement initiative focused on reducing gun-related crimes. It brings together multiple agencies, including local police, state, and federal partners to track and remove illegal firearms, investigate firearms-related crimes, and improve coordination between agencies, and create a uniform strategy to trace illegal firearms used to commit crimes. In 2024, the Indiana Crime Guns Task Force made significant strides in combating gun-related crimes across the state. The task force invested over 150 leads, resulted in arrest of 232 individuals. These efforts led to the seizure of more than 270 illegal firearms and over 75,000 grams of illegal narcotics. 2 years ago, we added Allen County. This is part of the goal is to, it started in central Indiana, but part of the goal is to take this statewide. So Allen County was added 2 years ago. This year with House Bill 1095, I'm asking if we can add Lake County to the task force. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to my co-authors, Representative, thank you for hearing the bill, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to my co-authors, Representative Greg Sturwald, Kyle Pierce, and Mike Andrade, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none. And we have still nobody signed up to testify. Would you like to close?
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you and look forward to a future vote.
Well, thank you very much. Any discussion from the committee? Seeing none, will the committee?
Second.
Call the roll.
Chairman Bartels.
Yes.
Representative Cash.
Yes.
Representative Commons.
Aye.
Representative Gore.
Yes.
Representative Haggard.
Excused.
Representative Judy.
Aye.
Representative Clinker.
Excused.
Representative Lauer.
Aye.
Representative Lawson. Yes. Representative Lucas.
Excused.
Representative O'Brien.
Yes.
Representative Mosley.
Yes.
Representative Pack.
Excused.
Bill passes 9-0.
Bill passes 9-0. Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Okay, the next bill is going to be House Bill 1186. It's going to be amendment and vote only. So let's go here to get this closer here. So, hey, so we're going to look at amendment number 6 first. And really, I want to really thank the stakeholders. That was, I really appreciate them working together on this. The School Resource Association, the State FOP, the Sheriff's Association, Chief of Police Association, and the Indiana Marshals Association. So I want to thank all those for coming together. Also the Academy for helping do some wordsmithing on this. And I also like to thank Representative Gore. Appreciate all your input on this, that we get this to the right place. So what the intent here is kind of addressing a couple problems and making sure that we're transparent in the public eye. So I also had a lot of reserve officers and special deputy contact me once we explained what the situation was and is, they were more supportive and they were able to contribute too. So, so the first thing I'd like to do is talk about amendment number 6. What this basically says is SRO, special deputies, reserve officers that have completed their pre-basic, and that's that 5-day course, but not have completed tier 1, tier 2 basic, cannot exercise police powers outside their jurisdiction, nor can they wear their insignia and police insignia on their uniform or their vehicle to work off-duty employment outside their jurisdiction. Now, the exceptions are going to be this: obviously traveling to and from work. If the officer's actually engaged in lawful duties that happened in their jurisdiction and ended up or leaving the jurisdiction, pursuits, felon arrest, apprehensions, those kind of things, investigation, or if the officer is transporting anybody outside the jurisdiction or back and forth. Any exigent circumstances, we talked about, a lot of people brought up, what if an officer needs help? So if there's a potential of harm outside the district, or if you're dispatched, those kind of things will all be exempt. Also, the kind of the catch-all is if there's going to be an MOU with another agency that's outside that jurisdiction that says, yes, you may operate in our area. Maybe there's restrictions on that, or they may actually say this officer cannot based on training or how they feel with other issues. So also in the bill is, in this amendment, is SROs were given statewide jurisdiction. The limitations was corporations. That was not the intent. So this actually says they have statewide jurisdiction, except for they still have to adhere to the beginning of this amendment. So if they're not tier 1, tier 2 trained, then their restriction is to their jurisdiction, their corporation. So that is the amendment number 6. Is there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, will the committee? I'm sure I should actually ask this, take it by consent. Consent. Thank you very much. And we do have amendment number 3, Representative Gore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for working with me on this. This is in a good bill like this that seeks to standardize what local units, their practices, which are often a patchwork across the state. It's a tale as old as time that Marion County would require some specific language to address a very peculiar situation that only it has. And that's the case here. Amendment number 3 addresses the issue that Marion County Sheriff's deputies are neither technically tier 1 certified, but are also not special deputies. They exist in this netherworld of law enforcement. And so to ensure that they comply with the spirit of the bill, the first provision in the amendment grants a statutory waiver for all existing deputies. Now, to be clear, these are people who have completed the Marion County Sheriff's Office Academy, which is currently an 800-hour academy. ILEA Tier 1 is currently at 640 hours, so a full 25% more. All of the instructors at the Sheriff's Office Academy are ILEA certified instructors. We even have an ILEA senior instructor on staff, which is kind of rare across the state. The Academy complies with all in-service training requirements, including the mandatory de-escalation training from 2021, the new mandatory use of force, standardized use of force training and policy. And so that's what happens with incumbent deputies. And really, we know that the training board, which you may know, can already waive people into tier 1 certification, even folks from out of state, but they don't have the time, resources to waive over 300 people, right, on a case-by-case basis. So, this is just meant to help them out, get over 300 people to comply with the spirit of this bill. So that's what happens with existing deputies. And the next provision in the amendment says, well, what happens with new hires? And so we seek to codify what is current practice, which is like every other agency in the state, new hires will attend ILEA in the same manner and proportion as every other law enforcement agency. And in that way, Marion County can no longer be an outlier in this kind of public safety realm. They will comply just like every other agency across the state. So appreciate the help on this.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, can we take this by consent? Okay, thank you. Okay, before we discuss and just briefly go over the remainder of the bill, we need to have a motion to revoke amendment number 1 from the first meeting.
So moved.
Second. And do we need to take a roll or can we do it by consent? Yeah, I think we could take it by consent. Okay, thank you. All right, so the remainder of the bill, there's no other changes. This is actually making the correctional professionals and correctional officers become public safety officers. On page 13, we talk about the enhancement penalties for highway workers. There's no changes there. And we go to page 17, and the enhancement penalties for the criminal recklessness that was discussed, aggressive driving with a firearm, aggressive driving resulting in bodily injury, and then the aggressive driving while shooting a firearm into another vehicle. So none of those have changes. Any discussion on the amended bill? Okay, seeing none, will the committee?
Move to pass as amended.
Second.
Okay, call the roll.
Chairman Bartels,
Yes.
Representative Cash.
Yes.
Representative Commons,
Aye.
Representative Gore,
Yes.
Representative Haggard,
Excuse.
Representative Judy,
Aye.
Representative Clinker,
Aye.
Representative Lauer,
Aye.
Representative Lawson,
Yes.
Representative Lucas,
Excused.
Representative O'Brien,
Aye.
Representative Mosley,
Yes.
Representative Pack.
Excused.
Bill passes as amended 10-0.
Bill passes. Thank you. Next, we will hear House Bill 1454, Representative O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, House Bill 1454 is a simple bill. It specifies that EMS services, including emergency ambulance services, are essential services in the state of Indiana by putting them on the same level as fire and police. And then requires that the counties identify areas within their counties that are unserved and then provide services to those areas by doing it one of 3 ways. So number 1 would be establishing a county emergency ambulance service. 2 could be contracting with a public, private, or nonprofit provider of emergency ambulance services, or C, entering into an interlocal cooperation agreement. So nothing in this section requires the county to appropriate county revenue to provide emergency ambulance services if they can be provided by other means. This bill is not just about policy, it's about saving lives, ensuring public safety, and strengthening our communities. The genesis of this bill really is from the byproduct of this committee from last year. We took a deep dive into the state of EMS by requiring all counties to submit their EMS data to the state. And then Department of Homeland Security compiled a report that really was shocking, and it shows that some of the state is not fully covered by EMS. And I think that this takes a great step forward, ensuring that we provide coverage where coverage is needed. I think that on your worst day, if you dial 911, somebody should be there to respond. And I think by supporting 1454, we're strengthening our commitment to protecting our citizens, supporting our first responders, and building a stronger and safer Indiana. After that report was released, we had a EMS roundtable in the room next door. It was actually the most packed I've ever seen that room, because there were stakeholders coming from all over the state of Indiana saying, this is a big issue and we've got to do something about it. And this is a step forward to address that. This is supported by the Fire Chiefs Association, PFFUI, Volunteer Firefighters, and EMS Association. And I think they're here to testify and answer technical questions if you have any, but I would appreciate your support today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, the first person we have to testify is Kelly Streeter.
Good morning, Chairman Bartels. There we go. Sorry. Good morning, Chairman Bartels. Good morning, Vice Chair Cash. My name is Kelly Streeter. I am multiple roles. I'm the immediate past president of the Indiana County Commissioners Association. I'm also the Knox County. I'm a Knox County Commissioner. This is my 9th year, and this is my 20th year in emergency management and public health in that capacity. And really, before we begin, I sincerely appreciate all of your hard work for Hoosier veterans as well as public safety. We stand for the same sincere service to all of them as well. Our association and county commissioners are very thankful for the leadership of Representative O'Brien. He worked last year, as you all know, as he mentioned, 2024-67, in working toward a plan for serving all residents in Indiana in both urban and rural, because we're so vastly different, with the same level of ambulance services we believe to be the end result. So counties and their EMS service providers completed this survey last year. I think 86 of 92 and all of their supplemental service providers completed it, again, with Representative O'Brien's leadership to illustrate the extreme diversity, as he mentioned, in the state of EMS in Indiana. And after review amongst our commissioners' delegation, we firmly agree that a framework or a plan for each county to provide emergency medical services is necessary. So that being said, corresponding Bill 1686 of Representative O'Brien's, where we adopt that plan that addresses BLS, ALS, the service needs levels. Duplicative services response time is absolutely needed. We need to review that locally and decide what we need locally. Today, we're here for 1454, which addresses emergency ambulance services. Those are our transport services locally that we use. And I know, again, that's a mixed bag. In my community, we have one ambulance service. And in the community to the north of me, we have one ambulance service. Now, we have fire departments that provide EMS levels, but non-transport. So again, in Vanderburgh, you have multiple EMS with 3 transports, I believe. So it's very critical to understand that transporting patients is very expensive. My community in Knox, our private provider, after 100 years of service to the state, said we can't do it anymore. Revenue loss, they gave us 6 months notice. So we scrambled. We spent $2 million, miraculously bought trucks used from all around the state and started a skeleton service out of our hospital. Davies County, to the east of me, did the same thing. Private service, he retired, not enough money. They spent $1.5 million, bought trucks, partnered with the hospital, started a service. They provide it to their counties, and I commend all the commissioners that have been able to do that municipally, especially in rural areas. So north of me in Sullivan County, they have a county-owned service, but they can't afford it any longer, and they can't have the oversight of the staff. It's not in their capabilities, so they're searching. So to the point I'm trying to make is we're all different. And it's very costly. And in this topic, we all want the tools to reach a comprehensive solution. And we just need some further clarity of the language of this bill for our counties so we aren't set up for failure, because some of these communities don't have the resources like the larger ones do. Some of our most vulnerable counties do not have the ability to implement a program that their townships or neighbors cover for them. We need the time. We need the fiscal plan. We need the programmatic framework to succeed with accessible emergency ambulance services as a county association. We do agree with several parts of the bill that township fire-based EMS seemingly do have excess funds across the state, and there is duplicative services. Resources are problems to be addressed. That is absolutely not a question. I've lost count of the bills introduced in this house, state house this year about fire, abolish, cut, grow, add. I just heard 1113 Ways and Means yesterday to then add EMS to township fire. So we just need time to figure out how to partner, how to build our own, how to merge, because we do not want our smaller ones to fail without the funding mechanism to do so, especially with additional services go to the cap, and there's lots of conversations about property tax, as we all know, reductions, and we're very aware of our budgets countywide being reduced. So we just had to make a statement of we need further clarity, that we feel there is a fiscal impact, and I want to thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? Representative Clinker.
Mr. Chairman. In this particular statement, it says the county is not required to appropriate county revenues, which you said, to provide the service if it can be provided through other means.
Yes.
Now, I know you found the way and
We
you
still
found the
pay.
means. What
Correct.
would you suggest for other counties that are having problems making sure that they have these services because they are
Sure.
very, very important.
Well, there is multiple means. Like I mentioned, we, as a county, we don't run it ourselves. We partner with our hospital, but we pay a subsidy. Absolutely. We pay $800,000 a year plus we own the trucks. The county to the east of me, they just this week, their commissioners added $200,000 a year to their interlocal agreement with their hospital to provide the ambulance service. The county to the north of me, they're about 1.2 million. Putnam County, they just created their own out of one that failed, and they're right at 1.2 million. So we all subsidize this service.
Where do you get the 800,000?
Every community does that different. My 800,000, we pass public safety lit
You did.
to do so. We had to because we couldn't fund it out of our current
And the
state of
people
revenue.
were willing to go with you.
Yes,
and
just like Representative O'Brien said, we
That's
all
great.
in leadership want someone to respond.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Representative Lauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very quickly, you mentioned having need for more time. This bill wouldn't, if it should go forward, wouldn't be into effect until July, about 6 months. So you think that's a reasonable amount of time to work out some of the details?
Well, again, my own situation of having to figure out an ambulance service with nothing. And we did it very quickly, but we had to also raise a tax. So I think those of us that have the resources and the ability to formulate a countywide service in whatever way we can do it through agreements. A lot of private organizations also require subsidy if the run volume isn't anticipated. It's a business and they need the funds. And in rural communities, the reimbursement rates are pretty poor because of the payer mix. So we don't believe that some of our smaller communities with less resources can reach a plan, an agreement, and implement it in that period of time, especially with funding need.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your testimony.
You're welcome.
Up next is Tony Murray.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I am Tony Murray, President of the Professional Firefighters Union of Indiana, representing 9,000 career firefighters, EMTs, paramedics around the state. I am myself a firefighter and a paramedic for a long time. We want to thank Representative O'Brien for the work on this particular bill. I know that this has been done in stages. I'm here to support this bill on behalf of our membership across the state. I'm going to be very succinct in my comments. This addresses, obviously, a need. This bill also, I think, goes the extra step to encourage collaboration and trying to find solutions that perhaps exist today. I mean, this is a challenge. We know that it is a challenge, but it also really stands to emphasize one of the primary pillars of local government responsibility, and that's to respond to the safety needs of their communities. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and we do appreciate your consideration for moving this bill forward. We think it's a good bill.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Up next will be Berkeley Ramsey.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Berkeley Ramsey with Market Street Group representing the Indiana Fire Chiefs Association. The IFCA rises in support of House Bill 1454. Would like to thank Representative O'Brien for all the work he has put into this bill over the last couple of years, the attention that he has paid to this important issue. Also want to thank Chairman Bartels as a co-author for giving the bill a hearing, and Representatives Barrett and Miller for signing on. Won't repeat comments, but as Representative O'Brien stated, this bill is the next significant step in improving our state's EMS services, and its potential impact could not be understated. The bill looks to successfully fill this gap in coverage by targeting unserved areas is the main target here, Indiana's most needed areas, while giving counties and local government the flexibility to pursue the route that is most fitted to them. So with that, happy to take any questions, keeping it brief, but appreciate all the work on this and appreciate the committee support.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And last person I have signed up to testify is Sydney Seresny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Sydney Shuresny with Volt Strategy, speaking on behalf of the Indiana County Commissioners Association. Our past president, Commissioner Kelly Streeter from Knox County, I wanted her to be able to share her subject matter expertise in this area. I want to clarify, we are supportive of the concept of the bill. We are neutral on the bill as a whole. We do support the concept, as Representative O'Brien had said. The intent of the bill is to save lives across Indiana, and I think we can all agree with that intent. We just want to make sure that if the language is implemented, that there is a strong fiscal framework so that the intent of the bill can actually be deployed in all 92 counties without any further gaps. And so we want to make sure that everyone is able to do that. And I think addressing a fiscal framework for this to ensure that it will work statewide is an important factor that should go along with this bill. So I appreciate the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much. And I officially lied trying to refresh this thing. So we do have two more that are signed up online. Next will be Dan Hardesty.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Dan Hardesty, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Indiana Rural Health Association. We stand in support of House Bill 1454, and we want to thank Representative O'Brien for bringing it. We do share a lot of the same concerns that have already been brought before you in terms of funding and things like that, especially in our smaller rural communities. But as we talk to our members throughout the state of Indiana, I think this is a crucial step in getting everybody on the same page, especially at the county level, and understanding where there are gaps in service and making sure that there is some sort of plan moving forward. We're excited about the conversation that's happening, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Hey, Representative Cash.
Thank you for testifying. Working with the Rural
Health Association.
I represent an area that goes into rural area, and then we have other areas that have very large fire and EMS and such. And talking with your membership, do you feel that the communities that have stronger EMS are willing to partner with your smaller towns to give those services? I'm just thinking of my towns that I represent, and I think they would jump at the opportunity to expand their service range. So I'm just wondering, obviously, I'm not statewide.
Sure.
Do you feel that that's a common philosophy?
I think
that there will be those opportunities.
Each city, township is different. A lot of people are hesitant to give up control, I would think, of certain services. So I think having these conversations at the local level will be crucial in moving it forward. I do think a lot of people are willing to partner, especially in the hospital space, as was already mentioned, to make sure that there is coverage.
Thank you. Any other questions of the committee? Thank you very much for your testimony. And last is Brian Burdick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Brian Burdick. I'm an attorney with Barnes & Thornburg here in Indianapolis, representing the Indiana EMS Association. Thank you, Representative O'Brien, for spearheading all of this. You've really thrown yourself into these EMS issues, and long overdue, and we greatly appreciate it. What you had here recently with our working group, or whatever we called that thing next door, I've never seen so many people together like you, working towards a common goal without a dissenting voice. So I appreciate all of that. I was going to agree with everything said previously. I might just provide a little color on funding, just so beyond the scope of the bill, but people have brought this up a couple of times. One of the things that's happened in the marketplace, and your body has addressed this a little bit last year, related to non-ERISA plan coverage of ambulance transport, is with the consolidation, merger and acquisition activity in health insurance, you really have just a couple players left in the country. In Indiana, it's really kind of 2.5. Anthem, United, and Aetna's kind of a player to be named later here in that. And when there used to be 20 chasing this business, and I know this, we're self-insured. I'm chair of our pensions and benefits committee at the firm. I negotiate our deal with who's going to administer our plan. But I can tell you what happened when 20 people used to compete for your business. You had a market that was trying to provide great services to your employees as the insured. And so the reimbursements were good for the providers, et cetera. With the merger and acquisition activity, you went from 20 participants to 2. The result of that is, you kind of have what happens in an oligopoly or monopoly. Service might have gone down. That is to say, we'll get to you when we get to you. Here's your rates. and you can't really negotiate for anything. So what happened was, in our first world, we kind of have this social compact that private insurance is going to help underwrite cost of care for the indigent and the elderly. In this area, we've seen, as a result of just having a couple market players left, reimbursement rates went from here to way down here, just slightly over Medicare. The result is you have nobody underwriting the elderly and indigent. And that's kind of what's resulted in a lot of these deserts that you've seen. It's a complicated thing, but it's just it's interesting. It's where the antitrust laws not enforced kind of fail. You don't know how many market participants it takes to make an effective market, but you know the indicia of behavior when you don't have one. And that's sort of what's happened. So I just thought, as an educational point, to share maybe something that's happened out in the marketplace that's caused some of the funding issues. Happy to answer your questions. And thanks again, all of you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. Representative O'Brien to close.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I just want to say, when people talk about needing more time, I think everybody in this committee knows and realizes that every second counts during an emergency, and delays in medical response can mean the difference between life and death. So I would appreciate your support today. Thank you.
Committee discussion.
Move to pass.
Second.
Call the roll.
Chairman Bartels,
Yes.
Representative Cash,
Yes.
Representative Commons,
Aye.
Representative Gore,
Yes.
Representative Haggard,
Excused.
Representative Judy,
Aye.
Representative Clinker,
Aye.
Representative Lauer,
Aye.
Representative Lawson, Yes. Representative Lucas,
Excused.
Representative O'Brien,
Aye.
Representative Mosley,
Yes.
Representative Pack.
Excused.
Bill passes 10-0.
Bill passes 10-0. Thank you. Next will be House Bill 1670, Representative Judy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee for hearing this bill. House Bill 1670 establishes the Veterans Empowerment Act, and I'm going to give you a little background. When you serve your country and you become a veteran, if there's any injuries that you receive, you can file a claim for a disability rating. Those disability ratings, once you become 10%, have a monthly payment to you. If you look at 10%, it's about $175 a month. 50% of about $1,100 a month, and if you become 100%, it's about $3,800 a month, right in that amount. We have county veteran service officers in this state. Every single county has one, either full-time or part-time. We have our VFWs, DAVs, American Legions, AMVETs that all have a VSO that can help assist a veteran through this process to get that service-connected disability rating for free. But there are times when veterans use another entity that will charge a fee. There are some bad players in this realm that are overcharging our veterans to help them through this process. So what this bill does is addresses that issue. As you look at the bill, if you go to page 2, it specifically says that when a veteran sits down with an entity like this, that it has to be a written agreement, and that they cannot charge more than 5 times the amount of that increase, or up to $12,000. So what also you see is I may file a claim as a veteran, say in 2012, and I was denied. But say I want to go back again, the PACT Act was passed recently in the past couple of years that now has given those that have served in Iraq and Afghanistan that have certain conditions that are exposed to burn pits, and even the Agent Orange for our veterans from Vietnam, the ability to refile that claim. Well, if they earn that claim, they will receive back pay. So you think about the amount of money there with that back pay. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money moving from 10% to 100%. So there's been some bad actors within this space that have been overcharging veterans, charging fees up front, and then may not even following through with the process. There are good actors within this that do help veterans. It's giving a veteran an option that may have just want to go that route. But what this bill is doing is putting in those guardrails. It's also stating that right there in 12-point print in section 5, that the veteran has to, in this language, says that there are free options, so that the veteran knows that there's free options as well out there. As you look at these entities now, they cannot use international call centers. They cannot use the veteran's personal login. They must ensure that any individual who may have access to a veteran's medical or financial information has to have a background check and pass that background check. And then also, if there's any violation, this puts it under the Deceptive Act of the state of Indiana, which if you look at that, I think it's a $500 fine, or the judges can increase it up to $1,000. So you're going to hear some testimony. I think this bill is passed in multiple states. I've worked with one of these entities that is in this space. They want to be regulated. They are going around to other states and working to pass laws like this to keep the bad actors out of this space. Again, veterans can get this done free by your county veteran service officer, all your veterans organizations, but there is a space for this where veterans want to use this. So I'll take any questions, and there'll be testimony too that may be able to answer some things that I can't.
Is there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Judy, are there attorneys that are out there taking advantage of our veterans to get these dollars?
There is. They're overcharging, or they're charging a fee up front just to even start the process. So this stops that. Yes, this limits the amount of how much they can actually. And they're only getting. And this bill says you're only collecting a fee if the veteran is awarded an increase or a new benefit as well.
That's a good thing. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? We're going to go ahead and start testimony. I would ask that I'm going to put a 3-minute time limit since we have lots of people to testify. If you have nothing new to say, please just go ditto in the organization that you represent. We'll go ahead and start with Jim Byerly.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Jim Byerly. I represent the Military Veterans Coalition of Indiana. We rise in support of this bill. This is on our top 10 priorities, is number 8. We picked this up from the National VFW. It's an issue at the National VFW area. And as stated, there are other states who have passed laws on this. And we believe the structure of this bill and its intent are excellent. And we fully support it and urge your favorable vote to move it forward. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much, sir. Next will be Peter O'Rourke.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate allowing me to come and speak in support of House Bill 1670. I'm Peter O'Rourke. I'm the president of the National Association for Veteran Rights. It's a trade association representing companies that are looking to be regulated in this space and operate ethically and support our veterans in their trying to deal with the VA. Previously, I was the acting secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs under the first Trump administration and also the chief of staff there. So these issues are something I know intimately, and appreciate Representative Judy to bring this bill. It's well overdue to regulate this space and push bad actors out. And as we all know, the volume of disability claims that veterans are filing each year, with whether due to the PACT Act or just normal separation and retirements from the service, are massive. And backlogs at the VA are consistent. And this will go a long way on addressing many issues that we see in the states that will help veterans be able to navigate to get their disability compensation quicker and more accurately, and so that they can move on with their lives. Happy to take any questions.
Representative Judy.
I don't have a comment. I just want to thank you for all your work under the Trump administration, that time period. It was, I mean, what was able to be done in those 4 years for us veterans and leading up to the PACT Act. Thank you.
Yes. Looking forward to more.
Any other questions from the committee? Thank you very much for your testimony. Next will be Mark Christensen.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, Representative Judy, members of the committee. My name is Mark Christensen. I'm a 26-year Army vet, Chief of Staff of Veterans Guardian. We're a veteran-owned and operated private company. We've been the recipient of the BBB Torch Award for Marketplace Ethics. Our staff is about 70 to 75% veterans, spouse of active duties. We're one of the good companies asking for regulation in this space. Last year, we helped about 35,000 veterans across the country with their disability claims. We fill a gap that the free services can't fill. And quite honestly, we try to do it in an ethical and transparent manner. everybody that comes to us, the first thing we remind them of is that there are free services available to them. This bill doesn't force anyone to use us, but it forces us to continue to do what we've been doing for years, which is promote the use of free services. And when appropriate, when the veteran makes the decision that's best for them or their families, they can come to us and get help. We appreciate the approach to legislating guardrails around specific actions. And again, this puts Indiana in front of the, several other states in the country by moving this forward. They're not alone. Places like Michigan, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Virginia, Hawaii are all pushing forward this type of legislation to make sure that good actors remain and bad actors are pushed out. Indiana's veterans are capable of making informed, good decisions. Thank you for leading the way. We hope to continue to work with you to help out Indiana's 300,000 veterans. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? See none. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
I'm sorry, Representative Clinker.
If you get that award for the veteran, do they share any of the dollars with your association?
So our company is a contingent fee-based company. So
What is it? Contingent fee?
It's contingent based solely. So a veteran can come to us, and if we don't help them get an increase in their monthly
don't get it.
disability,
Yeah,
we
they
get
don't
paid
get it.
nothing, regardless of the effort that we put into it. If they do, our fee is simple. It's 5 times whatever that monthly increase is. So
Five
if somebody came today, got $100,
Yeah.
and somebody gets 200 next month, that $100 increase times 5 is the only fee. So it'd be a $500 fee, and they can pay it. We have monthly payment plans, discounts, no interest. No.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your testimony. Next will be Lisa Wilkins.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Wilkin. I'm a United States Air Force veteran. I've been advocating here at the Indiana State House since 2009. I was inducted into our Indiana Military Veterans Hall of Fame for my advocacy work here at the State House for Hoosier veterans. Thank you. I rise in support of this bill. Thank you, Representative Judy and Representative Lawson, for authoring this important measure. What we're finding here in Indiana is it is not necessarily our attorneys that are taking advantage of our veterans. We have financial planners, insurance agents that are able to be accredited with the federal VA. One thing I'd like to point out in this bill, the portion of the bill that points out that the agent must have a criminal background check, that's already required. In order for these agents to be accredited with the Department of Veterans Affairs to help veterans and submit anything on behalf of a veteran, goes through the accreditation process. When they get to the point where they're getting a PIV card, which is access to the VA's VBMS, their internal computer system, the federal VA does a very extensive background check on these agents. One of the things that is happening here in Indiana, we just heard from a very reputable company of the way they do business. The way these men and women are taking advantage of our veterans is they are writing their fee agreements as if this is a consultation fee. So the wording of this legislation will help that go away. It also makes them make the veteran aware that these services are free. I would like to see possibly what's in the other bill that was introduced, possibly a form required that the agent has to present to the veteran that lists the information that these services are available for free and what entities provide those services in the state. That way the veteran and their family is certainly aware. It also keeps that agent honest in making sure that they're giving that information. This has been a problem for years here in Indiana. We used to have an employee at IDVA that kept a list of these agents. We do know that these incidents have been reported to our Indiana Attorney General's office. They have a list as well. What we need to make sure and possibly push for is that our Indiana Attorney General and local prosecutors, when issues like this arise, that they push on those. This specifically got brought to my attention in May of 2024 when I received a phone call from one of our congressional offices that a 94-year-old World War II veteran had been taken advantage of. I got permission from their family to speak about that specifically today. A gentleman, his name is William Elliott, a World War II veteran, paid $1,300 to a company in Fortville operated by a father-son team to help him get his paperwork and documents ready to apply for a benefit called aid and attendance, non-service connected pension. That is a benefit that is needs-based. It was completely improper for that amount of money to be charged and for it to be charged up front. So thank you for bringing this bill forward. This will help protect our Hoosier veterans and make sure that they're getting the benefits that they've deserved. So thank you. Please pass this along and work within your caucus to make sure that they understand this is an important piece of legislation for Hoosier veterans. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much. Next up will be Kent Morgan.
Feel like a turtle. Good morning. I'm Kent Morgan. I'm on the legislative team for the Reserve Organization of America. Just a brief history. We are one of the oldest federally national charter veterans organization in America. We are now over 100 years old. Our founder is located at an Indiana War Memorial, General Blackjack Pershing, World War I veteran and 4-star general. I'm a life member of the Disabled American Veterans. Also, I was the legislative chairman for the Disabled American Veterans for approximately 4 years here at the State House. I became an advocate for the veterans starting in 2009 at Indiana State House. Some of here were here when I was here. The ROA rises in support of HB 1670. I want to thank the bill's author, Judy. Thank you. It appears we have a lot of wonderful guardrails on the bill. I want to thank the chairperson, Representative Steve Bartle, and Vice Chair Becky Cash. Thank you. And the committee members for representing, for bringing this very urgent, critical, long overdue bill forward. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And also, I concur with the prior testimony so far, and I'm sure the rest will be the same. And again, I want to thank the sponsor, the committee, chairperson, vice chair, and all members involved. Again, we appreciate this. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Thank you for your testimony.
Right.
Next will be Sean Ranford.
Right.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I'm part of the VFW of the state of Indiana. We fully support this bill. On a personal note, I'm Lieutenant Colonel retired Sean Ransford. I was a victim of a claim shark company when I retired. I paid an organization money to assist me with my first claim. I am now the Department Service Officer for the state of Indiana for the VFW, and I do what somebody did for me for free. But I paid somebody to do what I do for free. And that's the part that I have contention with, and that's why I'm here today. There are a lot of organizations out there, primarily in the state of Indiana, the big three, the DAV, the VFW, the American Legion. There's plenty more that do this for free. And the unfortunate thing is nobody ever told me that. The word didn't get out. The person that assisted me never told me I could have this done for free by somebody else. And on a personal note and on behalf of the VFW of the state of Indiana, we fully support this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much. Next, Richard Ellis.
Thank you, Chairman Bartel, Representative Judy. I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate the committee and everything you do, not only for the VFW, the American Legion, but all Indiana veterans. Okay, I'm a 20-year Air Force retired. I have a very personal friend who has done the same thing. Sean, thank God Sean came. He's the expert. I'm not. He's still trying to pay off what they took from him. Okay. And this has been 3 years ago that they did that. Okay. And he's pretty upset that he didn't get anything out of it. And he had to still go ahead and pay the money. That's why I appreciate you bringing forth this bill. I think the guardrails that's in the bill, like everybody else has said, is great. As the general said, this is the VFW national campaign. They really want this pushed through all the states. I get emails and calls from the national almost every day about this, how's this bill going, because they knew about it. Okay. So I appreciate, I'm not going to take up any more time. Ditto on what everybody said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? And then last to testify is Eric McGinnis.
Thank you, Chairman, committee members. I stand before you today to express my strong support for House Bill 1670, the Veteran Empowerment Act. I'm representing the Big Four, the American Legion, VFW, DAV, and National Guard Association. This issue is actually very personal to me. I'm retired from the Department of Veteran Affairs, Veterans Benefits side of the house. I was a supervisor. I supervised rating teams, appeals team, public contact, development. And I also, prior to going to VA, I was a national service officer with the Disabled American Veterans, supervising the Indianapolis office. I also supervised an office in Salt Lake City and Anchorage, Alaska. So I got a pretty deep background, but in my position as the appeals team coach back in 2017, roughly, part of my job was to review payments to attorneys and agents and basically sign the check is what it amounted to. And it just burned me up. Even with the attorneys being in compliance with federal guidelines, they submit a form, appointing them as a representative, and then an 8940, which is a form for unemployability. Well, these claims may have been on appeal for a long time. They submit 3 forms, and I'm writing a check for $80,000, $90,000 to these guys. Just not right. So with that being said, I am ecstatic about the guardrails on this. This is awesome. I want to thank the authors and the co-sponsors, and it's just wonderful. So thank you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Representative Cash.
Yeah. I'm just curious, and if you don't have an answer to this, is there an average amount of increase when somebody is applying? It just completely depends on the person.
Absolutely, because the rating schedule goes from 10% to 100%. So, certain disabilities max out at 50%, like migraines. So it just depends.
So when you're signing checks for like $80,000, is that years of benefits?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, years of benefits. And it's coming out of the retro check. I'm just speaking from the federal side of the house, how we did it. And so it just comes directly out of the retro to the veterans, so they don't ever see it. But one of the things that we did is we also, prior to releasing those funds, we sent the veteran a letter and saying, hey, we're getting ready to do this. And if you disagree with the amount that we're going to give to this attorney, you need to submit a claim to have a OIG look at it. Very rarely did people do that. But when I saw it happen, I would see stuff, like I said, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. IG comes back. It takes them 2 to 3 years to make a decision. But when they come back, they say, $1,500 is reasonable, or $2,000 is reasonable. And then that's what we pay. So very, very, very important bill. Like I said, I'm thrilled. And it's really taking care of veterans. And it still allows them to hire an attorney if they so choose. And it's not taking anything away, which is, I'm all for that as well.
Representative Gore.
Thanks for your testimony, Eric. Maybe it's just the cop in me, but how do you feel about criminal penalties for failing to comply with the provisions of this bill?
It's theft. Really, at the end of the day, where else can you go and spend less than an hour and make $50,000? That's not ethical. And the intent needs, is to make money. It's not to help the veterans. And that's the nice thing about the free organizations that are out there, and the service organizations that do this work know this work. And coming from both sides of the house, VA relies heavily on service officers. When something comes in wrong or whatever, we can go to the service officer and say, hey, can you get this fixed? As opposed to trying to explain it to the veteran and things like that. And so these relationships, I don't know how you can even put a price tag on it. So.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Representative Judy to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for all the great testimony. This is a very important bill for our veterans, and I just ask for your support, and we'll move this forward. Thank you.
Move to pass.
Call the roll.
Chairman Bartels?
Yes.
Representative Cash?
Yes.
Representative Commons?
Aye.
Representative Gore?
Yes.
Representative Haggard?
Excused.
Representative Judy?
Aye.
Representative Clinker?
Aye.
Representative Lauer?
Aye.
Representative Lawson?
Yes.
Representative Lucas?
Excused.
Representative O'Brien?
Aye.
Representative Mosley?
Yes.
Representative Pack?
Excused.
Bill passes 10-0.
Congratulations, your bill passes. Next will be hearing 1637. Let's see here, make sure I got this. So 1637 is basically establishes the Office of School Safety. I really want to thank the Department of Education, the Department of Homeland Security, and the state police are kind of working together over the past few months and kind of getting this together in a good spot. So this new office does not increase the government. It actually, the mission of the school safety more efficient. This bill will take the stakeholders kind of all under one roof, so to speak. 1637 moves some employees from the Department of Education into the Department of Homeland Security under this new office. The Secured Safety School Board, that's currently under Homeland Security, is tasked with the approval of grants, and now will have the additional responsibilities and duties to oversee, study, collect information, establish, and maintain school safety practices throughout the state of Indiana. This Secured School Safety Board has a full-time position. Currently, it's the director of the board. That position will now be the director of the Office of School Safety, so we're not increasing a full-time position. If you look at page 4, you'll see that we added 4 more positions to this board to provide some more expertise in their areas on this new board. Page 6 actually is a new concept where we look at adding the responsibility of annual inspections of the school building doors to each school safety plan. Page 7, we're adding the fire chief designee to each county school safety commission. Page 14, this section allows now volunteer fire departments, municipal fire departments, and the Department of Homeland Security to obtain a burning permit, or actually able to burn, openly burn without a permit for training purposes. These organizations now can actually burn a list of materials that's on that page, but they still have to comply with some state laws. Page 17 to 18, there's kind of what if there's an issue with a firefighter, whether it's performance, conduct, education, the proceedings usually start with the firefighter's board. This section changes that, which will now start with the agency and then go to the firefighter's board. And that's in compliance, or I guess the same ways that we handle the EMS. There's a date right there, which is where the professional firefighters union asked where that starts. So there's no crossover from any current investigations. Page 20 is the Department of Homeland Security shall now publish a list of projects that can be released without a plan review. This is going to speed up the process. They still have to pay their fees, but they can speed up this process. Page 26 now adds a state fire marshal, executive director, and the fire investigator to the list of law enforcement officers. But this does not change the requirements in code that they have to have training to exercise any police powers. The bottom of page 26 changes the provisions that from a may to a shall, allowing the list on page 27, those inspectors, that you can actually pick your own inspector. Does not take you out of the responsibility to pay for the local permits. That's the gist of the bills. I can answer questions, or we can start with testimony and be more specific on a few questions from the Homeland Security. Okay, first up, we'll have Alyssa Schrader from Homeland Security.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Alyssa Schroeder, and I am the Legislative Director for the Office of Public Safety and the Department of Homeland Security. I'd like to thank Chairman Bartels for hearing the bill today and authoring it. He provided a great overview. I can provide just a little bit more details and happy to take any questions that you may have. One of the big items in this bill is creating the Office of School Safety, and this is an agenda item for Governor Braun. So right now, the Department of Homeland Security does a little bit with school safety. We administer the Secured School Safety Grant, and at the same time, the Department of Education, they have their own office that does a lot of school safety initiatives. They do a lot of training, and this would just merge them together. So take the existing office within the Department of Education and their functions and bring them under IDHS to create the Office of School Safety. So there would be essentially a one-stop shop for schools and state agencies in terms of who's doing school safety. Department of Education is here. They're supportive of this bill. This would just pull, we don't need additional funding. It's going to take the personnel with Department of Education and their current funding and bring it over to IDHS. So we're really just transporting one function from one state agency back over to IDHS to make it more streamlined. There's a few other initiatives in this bill regarding supporting law enforcement officers. So right now, the executive director of IDHS, the state fire marshal, and our arson investigators have law enforcement authority. However, they're not in the definition of a law enforcement officer. The concern there is, God forbid something were to happen to them, there may not be sentencing enhancements be able to applied if they are not in the definition. So resisting a law enforcement officer, things like that. So we are just clarifying by adding them to the definition of law enforcement officer. Like I said, they already have these powers. We're just putting them in the definition. Another thing it would do is with our arson investigators. So right now, if a suspicious fire happens, local law enforcement, local fire department, they can call our team and say, hey, can you come help us? Can you come look into this? Our arson investigators are tier 1 trained at ILEA. They're law enforcement officers. They have extensive training. They look into the matter. We know that arson is often a crime of concealment. And so sometimes in their investigation, they come across evidence of maybe other crimes. However, the law right now does not allow them to look into that. And so this would say you can look into if you think you see some other evidence of other crimes associated with arson. This is really an ask from our local law enforcement, because right now we have to say, okay, we did our investigation. Here's our report about the cause and circumstance of the fire explosion. We think there might be some other things going on that you want to look into. And often local law enforcement will look to us and be like, oh, can you keep doing that? And we have to say, no, we're not allowed to. So we're just clarifying their extent here. And like I said before, they are tier 1 trained by ILEA. So they have plenty of training. And then we're doing a few other initiatives to reduce red tape and streamline some of our government administration. For example, right now, if you are a fire department and you have a fire training facility, you have to get a permit from IDEM every time you burn there. And this would exempt fire departments from having to get a permit each time they burn at a fire training facility. Moreover, this would streamline how certain individuals interact with licensing bodies. For example, the Board of Firefighter Personnel Standards and Education is staffed by IDHS. So is the State EMS Commission. However, those two entities follow two different processes. If they issue an order to an individual, the process doesn't follow the same. The processes don't mirror each other. A lot of the fire and EMS are cross-trained, so it gets confusing for the license holder if they have something happen and they have to go through two separate processes. So this would streamline those processes, have them mirror each other, allowing the department to issue the initial order. If the person who receives the order disagrees with the department's finding, they still have appeal rights, and those appeal rights go back to the fire board. So the fire board is still involved in the process. And finally, this would require IDHS to publish a list of certain projects that do not need to be reviewed to issue a construction design release. So statute already provides that not everything has to be reviewed. And this just specifies that we should publish what are those types of projects that you still have to submit, and we will issue a CDR, but we may not necessarily go through every page of details. And like I said, that's already allowed in statute. This is just requiring us to put a list of what those projects are. That was a high-level overview. Happy to answer any other questions you guys may have.
I know there's been a request to actually add either basically local units of government for those permitting, because we do have municipalities and some county government that owns these training centers. So we're going to be having an amendment to add that. I just want to clarify that. So any
Yes.
other questions? Yep. Representative Clinker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask, is it going to take, do you think, a special appropriation in the future to ensure your public safety area? Do you think it'll take an appropriation?
Are you referring to the Office of School Safety?
Yeah.
I don't anticipate, because that function is already happening in the Department of Education and being funded, and we're just saying we're going to house it instead of over there. So it's not a new cost. It's just the money will come to us and the people instead of going to them currently, as it has been for the past few years.
Any other questions? Thank you for your testimony. Next up would be Tony Murray. And after that will be Berkeley Ramsey. We're going to probably look around 3 minutes based on time and number of people signed up. So 3-4 minutes tops. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Tony Murray, representing professional firefighters of Indiana. We stand in support of this bill. I'll keep it very brief. This bill encompasses many different things. We appreciate the opportunity to provide some insight and input. And we thank you for also streamlining even further by including local government as part of those fire training facilities and the burning requirements, et cetera. So I'm happy to answer any questions. We support the bill.
Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Berkeley Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Berkeley Ramsey again with Market Street Group, representing the Indiana Fire Chiefs Association. We rise in support of the bill. I'd like to thank Chairman Bartels for authoring this very important piece of legislation. I also like to thank Alyssa and the hard work she's put into this. There are a variety of provisions in there, supportive of them all. And there's a couple things regarding like a county school safety commission, adding a fire chief or their designee to that. No Representative Commons has a bill on that as well. So supportive of that, and appreciate your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jason Shelley.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Jason Shelley. I represent the Indiana chapter of the American Institute of Architects. We have about 900 architect members throughout the state. We rise in support of House Bill 1637. Appreciate Representative Bartels bringing this bill forward. In particular, and I have spoken with Representative Bartels about this, we would suggest adding an architect who has experience with designing K through 12 schools to the Secure School Safety Board list, and that's in Section 3 of the bill. A lot of times, architects, number one, health, safety, and welfare is first and foremost every time, and a lot of safety issues, whether it's fire, tornado, school shootings, can be addressed when you're doing a significant renovation or a brand new building early in this design process. So having an architect with experience in that realm, we feel would be a positive move. Other than that, we support the bill and urge your favorable consideration. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative Cash.
Thank you for that testimony. I recently had the opportunity to tour a couple of the new schools being built in one of our communities, and it was really impressive as they took me on the tour without me even asking, how they showed the new ways that they're making sure to make sure that when parents or other people enter the building, that there are the SRO office is right there, where the cameras are, where that might have been related to another bill I had, but just going through that. And so I support that conversation to potentially add an architect or a building construction person or somebody with that level of knowledge. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up will be Ashley Prisner.
Good morning. My name is Ashley Presner, and I'm the Chief of Staff to the Public Safety Secretary, Jennifer Ruth Green. I'd like to thank Chairman Bartels for holding this hearing and authoring HB 1637. HB 1637 contains several provisions that will increase public safety, including Governor Braun's initiative to streamline and centralize school safety initiatives, and ensuring our first responders have the training they need to keep Hoosiers and themselves safe. I would appreciate Chairman Bartels allowing additional time to consider the proposals mentioned today. Secretary Green and I look forward to continuing to work with this committee to keep Hoosiers safe and secure. Thank you.
Is there any questions from the committee? I want to thank you. Part of the purpose of holding this bill is so that the Secretary Green is actually on active duty, so she'll be able to review this tape and we can have a conversation. So that's kind of why we're doing this. So thank you very much. Okay, next up, Justin Swanson. I just want to remind everybody that you should have got the material that Mr. Swanson has published, so you should have that to review. And this is basically what he's going to talk about, a concept for this new board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to testify today. Justin Swanson with Bose Public Affairs Group. I'm here representing a technology company called Cretus. They support the bill and really want to encourage the committee to think about some of the current holes we have in school safety. Given the underlying bill, I think this is an excellent opportunity to do that. I think one blind spot we have in school safety is one, uniform data between locals, and then that communication from locals to the state. So uniform school data, and also cross collaboration among stakeholders when we're trying to be proactive when it comes to school violence. So right now, for an example, real life example, my wife teaches works at a school up on 38th Street. They had a student make a threats on Twitter, anonymous threats. They tracked it down, identified the student, had to close the school for a day to make sure everything was basically taken care of. Student ends up getting expelled, and then I asked her what happens next. She says, I don't know. And so really what happens is that student's going to show up in another district, and it's going to be a stroke of luck whether or not that district understands why that student is showing up in the middle of the school year. And so this is technology that's being currently utilized all over Canada, Louisiana, pilot program in Pennsylvania, and then Los Angeles County as well. So I really encourage the committee to take a look at that and see if this is an opportunity to address that kind of gap we have in when it comes to school safety. I think since 2014, we've spent about almost $200 million out of that secured school safety grant. So we've done an excellent job of actually hardening the schools. But I think too, the more you talk to your school districts, the more you're going to find out a lot of that violence and threats are happening outside of the school grounds because we've done such a good job of hardening the schools. So we just encourage the committee to examine language that would encourage this new Office of School Safety to examine that issue we have currently right now. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next up will be Chris Mitchum.
Good morning, members of the committee. Chairman Bartels, my name is Chris Mitchum with Vance Mitchum Public Affairs here on behalf of the Indiana School Resource Officers Association. We certainly rise in support of House Bill 1637. Appreciate Representative Bartels and all the stakeholders, co-authors for getting it to where it is now. Having such a central spot for all things school safety is really going to increase efficiency for SROs. We also help out with the school safety specialists. We train them as well, so we have to work with DOE on there. But then our training requirements are under DHS. So kind of being able to put all those things together will be really helpful. And we also appreciate the part of the bill that adds an SRO to the Secured Schools Board. The Secured School Safety Grant is one of the primary ways that a lot of schools fund SROs for their buildings right now. So we appreciate adding a member on there to lend our expertise and help where we can. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much for your
Thank you, Mr.
testimony. Next, Christopher Lee.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to speak here today. And really, I'm only speaking on an amendment that I'm told is coming next week, I believe. And I know I don't believe any of you have seen that yet. So I'm going to go through the change first, so you have an idea of what's coming. And I'll talk briefly about why it's needed. So the change is in regard to a change that was made to Indiana law with House Enrolled Act 1575 back in 2023. And this is the language that's currently in law, was put in 2023. And it's relating to the Indiana Fire and Building Code Commission, just so you're all aware. Right now, law says the commission shall decide which building code shall be reviewed each calendar year, focusing on the oldest building codes for review, except as permitted under IC 2212 2.5-4 parentheses B. The commission may not review a final rule under Indiana Code 422-229 for more than 3 building codes during any calendar year. So the 2 keywords there, first is review. We want to change that to adopt. The second point is calendar year. We want to change that to 12 months. And just to tell you all why this is needed. So as you can imagine, the apartment industry that I represent, builders, others, rely on these rules that come from the commission, the Fire and Building Code Commission. Our concern with others back in 2023 was that too many code updates could be made at one time. So we limited that, working with the legislature, to 3 sections of code being reviewed in a calendar year. What we found was that some of these code reviews are going to take longer than a year. So right now we're in a situation where 3 codes began being reviewed at the beginning of last year. They ran over, and they're probably not going to be done until March or April of this year with those code reviews. Under law, the way it's currently written, they can't start reviewing more codes until next January because of the way the law is. So we wanted things to move slow, but not that slow, right? We need some of these codes to be updated. And so our members asked that we support a change to this law and say that essentially the commission can only adopt 3 new code sections in a 12-month period. And you might wonder, why didn't you stick with the calendar year portion? And the reasoning for that is, what if they were to adopt 3 new code sections in December, and then January, they hurry up and adopt 3 new code sections? We wanted that to be spread out. That's the reason for the change to 12-month period. I hope that makes sense. We follow these code updates very closely, and they're all very technical, way over my head. We have engineers and people that know a lot more about the process than I do, but I know that they're needed, and we want it to be a smooth process. And we appreciate your consideration of this amendment once it comes forward.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Thank you very much. Next, Mark Schublack.
Good morning, Chairman Bartels, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Mark Schublack, representing CRG, a veteran-owned enterprise. We lend our support to the bill and urge you to consider another concept that could help security. The mapping concept I'm going to describe was a best practice developed by the U.S. military. If you recollect, after the Osama bin Laden raid, the Situation Room, and pictures of the Navy SEALs, there was a gridded map in the sit room and a gridded map on the arms of the special operators. And this was developed when teams needed to go into the desert in a place they've never been. Simple, effective strategy. Lay a XY grid over an image, and this is a common reference point for multiple teams to converge on one place despite their lack of familiarity. So a former Marine, sorry for the Army and amongst us, but developed this concept for schools. And, we assume first responders know where to go, but that's not always the case, as was the case in Uvalde, where it was unreadable at a critical moment, and at Sandy Hook, where it was incompatible with other systems. But just think about yourself, back to school night. Maybe you've struggled to find the classroom, and then double that with the stress of a severe incident. So here's the standard: compatible with all software platforms, printable or in a digital file, verified for accuracy with a walkthrough, oriented true north, overlaid with the XY grid, unable to be independently modified. This is best practice. It's not proprietary for one company. Although I represent one, there are multiple mapping companies. This just sets the best practice standard. So think of it as the old game Battleship. With a common grid, the school resource officer can tell mutual responders who have never been in the school, park in grid H3 inner door 4 and meet me at 5H. It's that sort of clarity that saves time. Numerous states have adopted it. Our Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Airport, and Plainfield schools already have it in existence and they can reference. We've spoken to numerous school and public safety organizations. The feedback's been positive. So again, applaud you for this bill and thank you for the time and consideration.
Thank you. And everyone should have already received his documentations if you hadn't talked to him prior to this. So questions, go ahead and we'll go with Representative Mosley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your testimony today. A very interesting concept. But the one thing I want to do is kind of help me out with a few years back. I apologize. I can't remember the exact year. But there was a bill, House Bill 1216, that was authored by Representative Steuerwald that passed and was adopted. And it was basically, and some may remember that we're here, it was basically, for all intents and purposes, it was an active shooter software system and program. And that bill was passed and funding was provided, appropriations were provided to help fund implementing this system into schools. So there are schools that partnered with their county sheriff's department that literally provides for the sheriff's department to be able to locate and identify an active shooter in real time, up to and including being able to physically identify what the shooter looks like, identify particularly and specifically where in the school they are, for example, in hallway B, which allows them, the school then, to have a plan developed to know how to avoid hallway B and do an evacuation through hallway C. Are you aware of these systems that are out there in Indiana today?
Representative Mosley, the only thing I can add is that under Indiana law, maps and floor plans are two permissible uses. I know the schools file annually school plans. Beyond that, though, that's probably some due diligence we need to check out if this would go forward.
I would suggest, if it's something you want to pursue, you can contact the Porter County Sheriff's Department. If I'm not mistaken, every school in Porter County has this system. And we've even expanded it to include churches and things of that nature. So every school in Porter County, I believe, has this system that they're using today. Literally, at the Porter County Sheriff's Department, there is a room with monitors all along the wall. And when the active shooter app is activated in the school, it instantly alerts every law enforcement agency that an active shooter incident is going on. Everything from conservation officers to the FBI. Okay. And an officer sits in that room where those monitors are, and they watch that person going all around the school. They even know what he's wearing. So if you're interested, I would encourage contacting somebody in the Porter County Sheriff's Department, and it's a fabulous program, and maybe something could dovetail with this, with what you're trying to do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Representative Collins.
Yeah, I'll make this quick. Thanks for being here. As someone that's used CRGs, this would and works in a school, I think this would provide a lot of standardization across ISP, especially rural communities where, we don't always have the access of a county like Porter County. So I'm just, for the tape, expressing my support for this kind of standardization mapping.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. Your
Thank you.
testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Last on the list is Neil Down. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to hold the bill. We are going to, I'll get the amendment out to everybody and to the public as soon as possible. We will be taking testimony so we can discuss this. So don't make any mistakes on this one. So as of that, we'll adjourn.
It's